Hey, how's it going, guys? Alright, so here's voiceover number 2. Here's some reference that I was using to basically get the dimensions of the pyramid head itself. I had traced out in CAD a picture of myself, scaled it to size, and used those reference pictures to build out kind of what the helmet's going to look like. As well as how big the sword's going to be. I ended up cutting the helmet out originally from coroplast. It's basically like a corrugated plastic, almost like cardboard. It's all fluted inside, so it's pretty lightweight. Essentially, I wanted to figure out how the dimensions were physically in the real world to make sure everything that I drew up in CAD was correct. So with a little bit of packaging tape, it holds together pretty good, and proportions came out great. It's really a nice material, especially if you want to do a mock-up or spray paint it. I ended up cutting the sword out of 1/4-inch aluminum. This was water jet cut, and at the time I was working at a company for years, 10 years, basically programming the water jets, drawing the two-dimensional files. So I had gone through quite a few swords, and here I am taking steps in milling out the holes and counterboring them for the brass corbies that are essentially going to hold them, kind of like a sandwich outside the actual main blade itself. So here we are with the brass corbies installed. And like I said, it's kind of sandwiched around. There's the two halves of the handle on the outside. And yeah, over the years, this is how I've done a lot of the sword handles for props that I've made. Here are the grind lines that I'm marking out with just pencil and with a little Dremel cut-off tool, then milling those down. I kind of want to accentuate where the handle's going to be to where the guard and pommel are going to be. So with a couple passes, it'll bring it down, and from there I can take that same little Dremel metal cutoff tool and start making the handles a little bit more prominent, giving it kind of a stepped look to it, to essentially not have like the same the same one piece feel. But then with a angle grinder and a flap disc, I start rounding out all the edges, kind of contouring it more, to where when it's actually in the hand, it doesn't feel like straight-edged brick that you're holding onto. And here it is after quite a bit of contouring. What makes it feel really, really good in the hands. And from there, I grind the corbies down, do a little slit so that I can, put a flathead screwdriver in there and actually take the handles apart while I work on them, and then tighten them back down, screw them together, to do a test fitting. And this is essentially I cover up with suede. The handle wraps that I make are suede, so it covers all that. Here's a nice show of where the balancing point of the sword is, and a goofy picture of me realizing, holy crap, this thing's gonna be huge. Here I am again with the pencil, just marking out the grind line for the actual blade. It will be a false edge, so a really bad shot showing how much meat is going to be taken off and how much will be left on the actual edge of that sword. So with the angle grinder and a flap disc, I do basically a false hollow grind all the way down the edge of the blade on both sides, which gives it the appearance of it being sharpened like a real sword. But obviously for a cosplay prop, I did not want this this sword, because the last thing I need is someone to get cut walking by, or if the thing falls, which luckily has never happened. But the hollow grind gives a nice sheen, a nice look when the light catches it. As far as the tip of the sword, I did end up putting rubber on it and duct tape, so it was convention safe. And there's some shoes that I made, and this is my first test fitting. I just spray painted the helmet and took it out to this little Halloween contest in downtown Mesa. I went there to see what people thought, and took it out there, and people were pretty ecstatic to see it. I ended up taking first place, which I was surprised, because I was kind of scared, being first time cosplaying. But at that point, I knew all the proportions were right, everything was looking good. People liked the look, so I ended up doing the detail on the quote unquote skirt. Basically the cracks I drew in with Sharpie, and then used acrylic paints and just added all the details on it. And here's a PVC duct tape dummy that I had made to mount it to. And here it is off to Liquid Metal Concepts. Now, I've mentioned them in the past. They've done a lot of fabrication for me, welding and bending and whatnot. These guys are magicians, really good at their craft. And this guy, Blaine Kelly, right here, he is the Solidworks guru master. He made these pew pew, basically briefcases, and they fabricated them entirely. And that's why I knew I handed off to him my two-dimensional files for the helmet, and gave him the actual helmet, and I said, hey, can you figure out how to make all the bends and the deductions work in SolidWorks? And he's like, yeah, and he came back with these pictures here. So he ended up flattening all the files and sending them to me, which these are those files that he ended up sending. He had little tabs to where everything interlocked, so it would be easy for them to weld it up after it was all bent and assembled together, and some more accent features. And I ended up cutting this out of aluminum. Again, water jet cut. All the tool paths were run on there by me. And here it is after I get it back. I gave them the cut pieces, and they bent it, welded it, assembled it, and it came out great. A lot of people ask, how heavy is it? And surprisingly, the helmet weighs 5 pounds. The sword weighs 8 pounds. So the helmet is actually a lot lighter than the sword, and it's really comfortable to wear too. A cool little accent, my logo in there. And again, another first for me cosplaying is doing makeup. So this was me trying my hand, pun intended, at adding fake blood to myself. Left the palm blood free, so I could carry the sword without getting blood everywhere. And this was my first time at a real competition. And then this was Mad Monster, which had some excellent cosplayers there, and I ended up taking first place here, which was really to my surprise. I mean, that Skeletor is great, Evil Lyn as well. As you can see, I added some scarring on my arms with the same blood. And then this, as some of you might know, is a very first picture of Steph and I together. This was us meeting for the first time, and this is what kind of kicked off our relationship. We met at the zombie walk in downtown Phoenix, and hit it off from there. But the zombie walk was really a fun one to go to. I ended up headlining it with John Holmberg of Holmberg's Morning Sickness. KUPD is a local rock station. But yeah, there is another. If you can see a mini pyramid head, that is my son together with Steph. he wanted a little pyramid head that he could wear, so I ended up making one for him. And this is a future Mad Monster that we went to, and the build for his I will post here shortly, so keep an eye out for that. And thanks for watching.